And it's time to say good morning to the Mayor of Dubbo, Matthew Dickerson. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Mr. Martin. How are you going today?
I'm going very well. Actually, an interesting council meeting last night.
Yeah, there was a lot on the agenda last night.
There certainly was.
Which was great. And I still laugh because, as you know, they're called ordinary council meetings. And I think this isn't ordinary. This is a great council meeting. This is a fantastic council meeting. It's not an ordinary council meeting.
Well, I'm going to talk about the voice later, and it's got ordinary bits and pieces attached to it as well.
Right.
But it's just the use of the word and the way it's used politically.
Mm.
Let's start with the easy one. Councillor Shively Chowdhury last night put a motion forward regarding more things to do at Christmas time in the main streets. How did that go?
Absolutely fantastic. Shibley brought forward the idea of basically getting more in the Christmas spirit. Of course, we have a Christmas tree in Dubbo and a Christmas tree in Wellington, and really just to activate the CBD more. And it wasn't necessarily about specifically do certain things. It was really about just activate the CBDs of both communities, really just get into the Christmas spirit. And I think we do anyway, but it was a good idea. And really now it's just a matter of going through the budget process. And that was what that motion from Shibley asked for, going through the budget process, making sure we've got some money allocated towards really getting into the spirit of Christmas when December comes around this year. So it was well received by councillors. I don't think any councillors had any issues with it, well supported by councillors. Now it'll just be a matter of going through that budget process, allocating a certain amount. Come December this year, we'll see a few more things happening around Christmas in both Dubbo and Wellington.
Now, what concerned me was a motion for the airport, and I think this motion came from the staff, regarding the weight of a plane taking off in Dubbo and wanting to charge by weight, also over and above the passenger fee which we charge anyway, and every airport does that. I noticed that no other airport in New South Wales, regional New South Wales, charge, and the staff put this one forward. I think it is an abominable idea, and I'm hoping that it went down last night.
We have said to our staff we want to see how we can maximise the income from our various business units, and the airport is one of those. And the airport typically has made good money for residents of Dubbo, and a little pandemic came along, obviously not many flights, not many passengers, it really hit the bottom line there. The staff brought forward the idea of changing it slightly. The model for most airports around the nation is you charge per passenger.
That's right.
There are some airports that are more focused on maybe mining airports, for example, charter services, and they charge a maximum takeoff weight. So basically, however many tonnes that aircraft is rated for, then you know that amount and you pay a set fee each time that lands. And so there's a set fee there for those aircraft.
I looked at Townsville, they're making a couple of $1 million a year out of it, so no wonder the staff got excited.
That's right, and so the staff thought that this would be a way to maybe even out some of the income for council. So every time an aircraft lands, there's a set fee paid, regardless of how many passengers are on that plane, and then there's another fee for each passenger as well. So you get a set amount, a fixed amount, and a variable amount. And so that sounds great from our point of view, from a council point of view, owning the airport, but for the passengers, for the airlines, it creates a lot of uncertainty around the actual charging for that, because they don't know how much to add to a ticket price because you don't know how many passengers are going to be on an actual plane. That makes it difficult. The other part it creates is a bit of a problem with an administrative point of view, because you've got AV data that records plane movements, so we'd have to use AV data to get that information to charge the airlines per tonne of each aircraft. And then you've also got the passengers that are reported by the airline, so you have two separate admin processes. Debated at length at council. In the end, we said there is variability in terms of the actual passenger numbers, and the airlines have always got that variability. We think it's fair and reasonable that we, as the airport owner, take on some of that shared risk as well, and then we're both focused on the same thing.
Couldn't agree with you more.
See how we can get more people flying. That's good for the airlines, that's good for the airport, good for tourism overall. So
and indeed, and more airlines, presumably getting Pelican back, which would be nice, and more air companies using the airport. And I would see this as a great negative against future air companies wanting to land planes in Dubbo with passengers.
Well, that's exactly the way the council
went
in the end.
Good.
It's called MTOW, Maximum Take-Off Weight, MTOW, so that proposal was put forward. And look, I have no problem with staff putting ideas forward and coming up with different ideas. And again, it was debated respectfully, and in the end, councillors decided it wasn't the best option for this airport at this particular time, so let's not do that, and let's just go forward with normal passenger fees as we've done in the past. So we'll continue to do that.
And has every regional airport in New South Wales does at the present time. I know there's a few in Queensland that don't. I mentioned Townsville. Hell, Townsville's a hell lot bigger than us.
And different, I think.
Yeah,
That's the important thing. The way airports operate,
it's different.
There are some that operate differently.
Okay, let's get on to some rather nasty issues. Firstly, we have Sheraton Road, a shambles. We have Wheelers Lane, a shambles. I mean, I dodge potholes in Wheelers Lane and other people, and nothing's been done. We have dreadful potholes in Boundary Road, just for starters. We've got dreadful potholes in, I can't think of the road, in West Dubbo. Now, okay, you talk about heavy patching, as you did last month. Surely there is a truck, a steamroller, or just a roller these days, and a bit of gravel to at least fill those potholes in temporarily, because they really are bad news. And why isn't council doing something about it?
I think of the kids cartoon called Cars, where you've got Betsy, the greatest road repairing machine ever, and it would be lovely to have a machine like that you just roll that machine out and it fixes these problems. But unfortunately, it is a lot of work, especially when you get to heavy patching, when you're cutting sections out and doing that. But even just filling the potholes, the real issue here, Richard, is 2,875. That's the magic number to remember. That's how many kilometres of road we've got across the LGA. And the roads are in terrible condition across the LGA. We're getting there though. Now the roads have started to dry out from all the rain we had over last year. We're actually getting there.
Okay, you're getting there, but you're getting there on a lot of rural roads at the present time. You're not getting there on roads, the roads that are most used in the council area, and I'm talking about the three that I've mentioned. They are the most used roads in Dubbo,
So
in the regional council area.
Can I translate that to be the roads that you use often, so you notice them more? Sometimes it does come down to that. I mean, I say
I'll admit that, but I travel Dubbo extensively. I go over to West at least 2 or 3 times a week for various reasons, and the roads over there are just as bad as the roads here in East and in the north of the town. And those, and they are really, especially Wheelers Lane and Sheraton Road, are well-used roads, and they're used by many, many people. And it says to me that the regional council, Dubbo Regional Council, have got their priorities wrong. You're not looking at the major roads and the major users. It's like the library. I remember a councillor saying, we haven't got any money for the library. This is when Wellington was a separate council, and as you know, all the councils in this area combined for the Macquarie Regional Library. That particular council, we haven't got the extra money to put into the library. Said in the same sentence, 52% of our ratepayers use the library, but she was then going to put all this money for 24 people into a road. Now, I'm seeing the same thing with the regional council at the moment, and you've got to admit, those roads are used a lot and they're not being looked after.
It really comes down to the condition of the road and the number of users of the road. So
that's right.
We have a matrix that we use to determine which is the next road. The number I've talked about before for our infrastructure backlog of road was 40 million. The latest report we had come through council, that number is now over $60 million. It was fantastic when the state government gave us an extra $5 million recently, but you can imagine 5 million out of 60 doesn't cover 60. No. Even if the state government or anyone came and said, here's $60 million, we're having trouble at the moment getting enough people, contractors, enough staff, enough materials to do all these repairs. We are working flat out as fast as we possibly can to do all these repairs, but they all take time. And I understand people ring me every day. This is one of the issues that I still get phone calls and emails every single day about, and people will tell me about.
But you haven't answered my question. The priority's got to be surely on the roads that are most used in the Dubbo Regional Council area.
It's a combination of most used and worst condition. So you might have a road that's used more than another road, but the other road is in terrible condition. So sometimes the repair will be done on the road that's in worse condition but less used, because you're trying to get that matrix right between most used and worst condition and getting the right balance there. And I don't think we get it perfect all the time, but that's the way we go about it. We look at the condition of the road and we look at how often it's used, and then do a combination of that. So Boundary Road, as an example, there was some discussion about Boundary Road last month in terms of where we should allocate some money, and I went for a drive along Boundary Road, and if you drove off to the left of Boundary Road there, it wasn't in great condition, but if you stayed on the main part of the road, it was acceptable. There's lots of traffic on there, and it was acceptable. You could do it at legal limits. Okay. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect, but other roads I've driven on at legal limits are in terrible condition. You've got to go below the speed limit to actually go across a road to actually do it safely. So you're trying to get the combination of those two. And it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. It is a challenge to go those right. Sheraton Road is a special case. That's one I put off to the side.
Yeah, okay, we know about that. We heard about it last month because we've got to move on. But look, very quickly, the next one is the Macquarie Conservatorium of Music. Okay, it's got to shift its location. They have placed the responsibility on council in many ways to try and find a location. Are you in favour of council looking after the Macquarie Conservatorium, or are you in favour of the Macquarie Conservatorium looking after themselves?
I've got a resolution from council that went through council last night that says that we will help them find a home, and we've been doing that. We've been working with them to try and work out somewhere for them to go. 3.5 years ago, they were told, unfortunately, the Department of Education wanted that building back that they're in now. So this is a state government funded organisation, and students pay as they go through it as well. Students, both young students and adult students, go through there. So they generate income from that. They receive money from the state government. Great facility for Dubbo. All 4 of my children have been through the Macquarie Conservatorium of Music. I'm a big fan of what they do and having that level of music tuition here in Dubbo. We will help them. I suppose the big issue from a council perspective is how far do we go in helping them financially? In other words, if, for example, council had a building...
I wouldn't say that you need to help them financially terribly much. I'm saying that you should, council's responsibility is to try and find a building for them.
We've certainly been doing that. We've been looking for various locations, be it council-owned or non-council-owned buildings. But keep in mind, let's say, for example, let me throw this hypothetical at you. Let's say council had a building that we could rent out commercially for $50,000 a year. And the conservatorium said, that's a perfect building for us, let's go in there. We'd like to have that, thanks. Well, then, do we charge them $50,000 a year? That's the commercial rent. Or if we charge them $10,000 a year, and I'm making up numbers here, but let's say I charge them $10,000, that means that the community of Dubbo effectively has foregone $40,000 of income for the conservatorium. Is that fair and reasonable?
Well, you do that for a swimming pool, you do that for the library, you do that for other things, and that, I believe, is a responsibility of council.
So that means we're financially helping them, and that's my point there. I'm not saying necessarily that we go and hand over $50,000 to the conservatorium, but if we forego X dollars of income to put them in a building that council owns, it's the same as handing over money to them. So how far do we go there? We'll help them, but we've got to make sure we don't go and give them so much financial help that it's really having an impact on the residents. So when someone says to me, why didn't you fix Boundary Road? It was only $25,000 to fix Boundary Road. And I say, well, sorry, that money's going towards the conservatorium.
No, they're not going to swap budgets and pull that trick.
No, but it's still the same. It's still, we're talking about council money. So money that we put towards any organisation, whether it be the swimming pool or the conservatorium or any organisation, any help we give them financially means we haven't got that money to spend elsewhere. Now, that's our job as councillors, to balance that budget. We've got a budget that'll be in the vicinity of $200 million next financial year. We've got to make sure we balance that and get the best outcome for our residents, while also looking after various community activities like swimming pools, like various facilities, the library, etc. The Conservatorium of Music, is that a direct responsibility of council? Typically, council in the past hasn't funded the conservatorium. This might be an extra funding that we have to come up with if we go down that path. We'll keep working with them. Hopefully we'll come up with a solution that works for the community and works for the conservatorium.
Let's hope so. All right, very quickly, because we're running out of time, it's 27 to 11 DCFM 88.9, talking with Mayor Matthew Dickerson. The water situation and fluoride, this is a very good motion of council last night.
One of the issues that we've talked about before is that fluoride stopped being put in our water in 2019.
Who knew about that?
Well, this is the interesting part, Richard. There's a report that our council staff have done each year that has to be submitted to the state government. That report, I've read those reports from previous years, that report says clearly that fluoride was not in the water. In fact, in the executive summary, it talks about the fact that fluoride is in the water. The staff are doing their job. They're putting the report together. They're passing it up the chain because they haven't got the ability to fix that problem. They can alert the appropriate staff about that.
That's fair enough.
So that's gone to...
That gets to my question, who knew?
That's right. So that has to have gone to the director of the day, and surely the general manager / CEO of the day also knew about it. You would also hope something as important as that the CEO would have discussed with councillors. Now, we don't know all those conversations that happened. I wasn't on council at the time. I don't know all those conversations, but surely the CEO, if the CEO is doing their job properly, has to know about that sort of thing. The director has to know about that sort of thing, and then they need to address that problem. So I don't know who knew about it, but surely the leadership group had some idea that that was happening.
All right, so if the CEO, the mayor of the day, you'd think so, and
surely.
also the director.
The director would have been given that information, and
exactly.
that would have been
when I was on council, that's exactly what happened.
Exactly. So from there, it wasn't addressed. The problem, no fluoride in the water, which is a breach of the relevant act, because we've said to the residents.
Are we going to see anybody pulled up and be made responsible for that, do you think?
Well, these people that were there at the time aren't there any longer.
Well, I know they're not there any longer, but they can still surely be hauled over the coals because of it.
You're right, but I don't know that there's any appetite from the Office of Local Government to do anything about that. Because
have you approached the Office of Local Government to ask them to do something about it?
I haven't actually asked them specifically about this. My focus has been on fixing the problem, not about looking in the past.
Understand. What about the CEO?
In terms of trying to get something to happen to the previous CEO, or has the CEO approached someone?
Our current CEO, has he done any investigation? Has he approached the Office of Local Government?
I'm not sure, but I doubt it. Again, the focus has been on fixing the problem. Let's get the problem fixed, then we can look backwards if we need to. But at the moment, that problem's fixed. Now, the important thing from last night is that report that has to be done by staff anyway, that goes through those various channels, there's no requirement for that to go to a council meeting. That's why it could be basically hidden for so long. For 3.5 years that was hidden and no one knew about it. Once we found out about it, then we took immediate action, engaging New South Wales Public Works. We're going through a process now, tenders have closed, we'll get that problem fixed. But it should never have come to that. So what we did last night was we resolved that report that has to go to the state government each year will also go to the April meeting of council each and every year. So that means that the public can see that report, councillors can definitely see that report, so any issues in the future that pop up will be shown the light of day, both in a public council meeting and known by councillors. So there'll be no excuse in the future for not knowing something about that and not doing something about it.
Excellent move.
It's a shame that we've had to actually resolve at council to do that because of past behaviours.
Past behaviours, exactly. Very quickly, lots happening last night, the master plan.
For?
Well, north and south of the river. Which one do you want to pick on? Are we going to look at Regan Park?
Well, the whole issue there is the Macquarie River Master Plan, the North Precinct and the South Precinct. We did make one change. The original investigation and master planning process on the north side did also take into account the Northwest Precinct area, which is the new development that will see 6,000 blocks of land developed there. What we did was we took that out of the master planning process for the north area of the Macquarie River, because there's a lot of work being done on a structure plan at the moment. So it seems silly to say, let's have a master plan for this, which then may be changed in a very near future. So take that out. The north, and I won't go and talk about all the details of those plans, they're all available online, you can go and look at those. But essentially that was adopted last night, the North Precinct, the South Precinct. What happens now is that we've got a master plan. The costing of that, if we went and implemented that master plan tomorrow, we would spend over $20 million on doing all of that. We don't have $20 million sitting around loose change. The idea of a master plan is that we've got a direction now. I think it will take 20 years, Richard, before that master plan will be realised, and it'll probably change a little bit in those next 20 years.
I'm sure it will.
But at least we've got a plan. We can now keep an eye out for various pockets or buckets of money that we might be able to put towards that. We'll find little spots that we'll do on that. The Macquarie Titan Mud Run has been fantastic in putting money towards various assets along the river. I'm sure they'd like to contribute certain parts of that as well. So we'll find those funding sources, and over the next 20 years, we'll see something like that master plan realised.
All good. Good talking with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Richard.
We'll look forward to roads being fixed, a home for the Macquarie Conservatorium, the airport, people mopping their brows there and saying we don't have to pay any more water, but I do like the fluoride plan.
Yeah, good.
That's excellent.
Thank
Good
you.
talking with you. It's coming up to 23 to 11 DCFM 88.9.